Hey, our conversation around homework help for Module 3 is continuing on. So I'm on Lesson 12. You can see up in the title right there. I'm on Lesson 12. I'm on the problem set, and there's only one page of this. So find it. Let's do the work. Uh, we've talked about what the function looks like as a graph, what the function looks like when it's in a table mode. This is the one that says what the function looks like when it's in an equation. And it might be even helpful to have a web page that has Desmos up and running, because Desmos up and running will help you graph it when you're stuck. You can look at the table option. You can even go to a Google Sheets and type in a picture of the relationship between the lines, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., and plug in that formula where you use the A1 instead of, well, whatever. Point being that we really only need to look at some structure from the equation itself. And there's two types of functions we're looking at. We're looking at a linear function and an exponential function. So number one is full of linear functions. Maybe you remember from last year or years past that you could say this looks like y equals mx plus b. And 1/2 m is your rate of change. It's positive. That means the line is going in an up fashion, rising positive, running positive, so an increasing function. And on the other side, this -4, that's your y-intercept. We know that because if you put a 0 into the value of x, 1/2 times 0 goes away, so you're on the x-axis, or the y-axis, and -4 is how far up and down on the y-axis you put your value. So b, -4. Answer the question. Determine the y-intercept. Y-intercept is 0, -4. And 2, state the slope. M, meaning slope, is 1/2. And then because that's a positive value, increasing. So increasing. That's really it. If it gets any more complicated from that, B, for example. In B, you are able to do the same thing, except notice that this is not the same structure of y equals mx plus b. It's almost like this goes there, and -3x goes here. So it's kind of like it's switched. It might be helpful to rewrite the formula so that it actually is switched. -3x plus 4. Now it looks like mx plus b. The 4 is positive. It better have a plus sign in front of it. The 3 is negative because there's a minus sign in front of it, so you better keep that minus sign in front of the 3. Otherwise, what are you doing? So to continue answering the questions from the prompt up above, y-intercept, easy, it's b, it's 4. Slope, it's the number in front of x. Too many times students say mx plus b when I say slope, and I look at them and I just shake my head in like, oh my god, are you kidding? The slope is just the number in front of x. It's just the value that it's changing x, and in this case, it's -3. All of that minus and that 3 has to be there. Do not say x, -3x, stop, that's wrong. -3 and only -3 is the slope. It's negative, which means the line's going to be doing this as you graph it. So this line looks something like that. It's a decreasing line. All right. In the next one, I'm going to leave C and D for you to do. I can't do all your homework for you, but I'm going to give you those two to do. And then I'm going to go with number 2. Number 2 is all about exponential functions. See, exponential right there. An exponential function has a standard form to it. It looks a lot like y equals mx plus b. Remember, f of x and y can be swapped out. There is a reason for one versus the other, but you know. 2 is a, 1/2 is b, and then its exponent. Sometimes you can type this into a formula if you go 2 times 1/2 to the power of x. That would be something that lets you type it into a spreadsheet, and then you could create a list of points from the information given. We have similar questions. We have the y-intercept. And I know we're using A and B where before we didn't use those letters, but that's the y-intercept. It works that way because if you put a 0 where the x is, that's going to make the b cancel out. There's a reason behind it, the math behind it, it turns into 1. But the b goes away, and the number that's left is 2. So y-intercept, 2. Next, state the growth factor. There's only two variables with an exponential function. Oh, sweet. So since there's only two variables with an exponential function, one is the y-intercept, the other one has to be the growth factor. That means b is the growth factor. It doesn't get a fancy letter like m. M is pretty universal. So 1/2. Now, if that number 1/2 is bigger than 1, like 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1, but 2, 3, 4, 5, then you're going to have a function that looks like this. That's an increasing everywhere function. When your growth factor is less than 1, like between 0 and 1, since 1/2 is, you actually get one that looks like this. Yeah. There's a good meme about this, you know, go to the barber, get the y equals 1/2 x haircut. That line in there, yeah, right? So anyway, the point is, look it up if you want to. That function is decreasing everywhere. And so because it's decreasing everywhere, Desmos would help confirm that. But everywhere that you draw a line, it's trending down, trending down, trending down, trending down. Especially like right in this area, it's trending down. So we say this is a decreasing function. It's really all you got to do. You just got to look at those two values, interpret those two values, and report it. I'll do B, you do C and D. So B, standard form of an exponential function, oh, I lost it, is y equals, it won't even work, it's even flipped. I'm going to write it, we're just going to soldier on, a, b to the x. Glitching out. I know, it's flipped, deal with it. So we have, can I make this bigger? Please, sweet. We have A is our initial value. That's our y-intercept. We've been talking about initial values for a reason. So we're going to say y-intercept is 0.5. I know it's backwards. Deal with it. And then the growth factor is the other number. So growth factor is 3. Because 3 is a number bigger than 1, this creates a picture of an equation that looks like an increase. So it's going to be rising. I know it looks flipped in the mirror, but flip it back for your own benefit. Ooh, asking you to do something with your brain. And because it is, it's a positive change. So this is an increasing exponential function. All right. It doesn't really do much for me to continue working on this homework assignment. You need to do the bottom. Make sure that you get the next one. Get there, sir. Is done. In order to write an equation, you really need to go back up to what the standard form of the equation is. I guess I will provide this one. Y equals mx plus b. So for number 3, if that's what y equals mx plus b is, that's a linear function. What does yours look like? And then the standard form of an exponential function is a times b to the power of x. So your job is to, again, flip it and then fill in a and b and use x as an exponent. That's all I can do for right now. I'll put the next one up here in a minute. Thanks for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing.